The fortress of Valdrus hung suspended in the void between dimensions, a prison designed by the Council of Eternal Voices to hold beings too dangerous to exist freely. Within its deepest chamber, wrapped in chains forged from compressed starlight and temporal paradoxes, knelt Kaira. She had been a warrior once, a champion of her people, the Lumine, beings of pure energy who had fought to protect the younger races from the devouring dark. But the Council had feared her power. When she refused to abandon the mortals during the Great Collapse, they branded her a traitor and locked her away. 300 years passed in that lightless cell. The chains drained her essence continuously, feeding it into the void to prevent her escape. Kaira had felt every second of those centuries, her consciousness unable to slip into the mercy of sleep or madness. She remained aware, always aware. As her strength ebbed away grain by grain, countless champions had come seeking to free her. The prophecies spoke of a liberator, one who would break the unbreakable bonds. Warriors from 1,000 worlds had tried. The Ironburn wrought hammers that could shatter moons. The Voidsingers wielded weapons of pure entropy. The mechanical forge lords constructed breaking devices calculated to molecular precision. All failed. The chains remained intact, unblemished, eternal. Kaira no longer hoped. Hope was a luxury for those who still measured time in meaningful increments. She existed, nothing more, waiting for the universe itself to end and release her through its final cessation. Then came the sound of footsteps. They were different from the measured treads of her previous would-be rescuers. These steps stumbled occasionally, accompanied by harsh breathing and the scrape of something being dragged across stone. Kaira lifted her head, the movement requiring more effort than toppling a mountain had once demanded. The figure that entered her chamber was small by galactic standards. Bipedal, wrapped in a patchwork environmental suit, held together with what appeared to be hope and adhesive strips. It carried a blade at its hip, the metal pitted with rust and wear. A human. Kaira had heard of them. The newest species to achieve faster-than-light travel, barely a century old in the galactic community. They were considered curiosities at best, nuisances at worst. Weak in body, short-lived, possessed of no natural abilities beyond stubborn persistence. "Found you," the human said, voice distorted by the helmet speakers. The figure pulled off the headgear, revealing a weathered face marked by scars and determination. Short dark hair, gray at the temples, framed eyes that held depths of exhaustion. "Name's Cole. Took me 6 years to get here." "Leave," Kaira whispered, her voice like wind through dead leaves. "You cannot help me." "No one can." Cole approached, studying the chains with an engineer's eye. "That's what they said about the breach of Antares and the Crimson Nebula blockade. People like saying things are impossible, right up until someone does them anyway. These chains are woven from fundamental forces. They exist in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Weapons that could unmake stars have failed to scratch them. Good thing I didn't bring a weapon that unmakes stars then." Cole drew the sword from its sheath. The blade was perhaps 3 feet long, forged from common steel that had seen better decades. Rust spotted its surface like a disease. The edge bore chips and notches from hard use. Kaira almost laughed, but the sound died in her throat. "That blade is nearly destroyed. It would shatter against a training dummy. Maybe." Cole tested the weight, adjusting grip. "But it's got something your fancy impossibility weapons don't. It's been with me through every fight, every impossible situation I've survived. When my ship crashed on Bellis 4, and I had to dig out of a collapsed cargo hold with nothing but this. When raiders boarded my transport, and I held a corridor alone for 6 hours. When I had to cut through a collapsed temporal field to save my crew. Sentiment does not forge strength." "No," Cole agreed, "but it forges meaning. And I've learned something about the universe in my years out here. The things everyone says are impossible. The absolute barriers nobody can cross. They're usually built on assumptions. Rules everyone agrees on so completely that nobody questions them. The human approached the chains, raising the rusted sword. Kaira wanted to warn Cole away, to spare this foolish mortal the despair of failure. But something in the human stance stopped her. There was no hesitation, no drama, no elaborate preparation. Cole simply lifted the blade and swung. The sword struck the chains. The universe held its breath. And the chains shattered not slowly, not with resistance, but instantly. They exploded into fragments of light that dissolved before touching the ground. The feedback of released energy should have incinerated everything in 100-mile radius. Instead, it simply dispersed, leading into dimensions that welcomed it like rain into drought-stricken soil. Kaira fell forward, catching herself on hands that suddenly remembered strength. She stared at the broken shackles, then at the human who stood calmly sheathing a sword that by all rights should have been obliterated. How? Cole smiled, tired but genuine. Told you. Assumptions. Your chains were built to resist everything the known universe could throw at them. Every exotic particle, every fundamental force, every quantum edge case the Council could imagine. They calculated for eternity. But they calculated based on their understanding of the universe. Perfect, timeless, elegant. They forgot something. Cole tapped the rusted sword. This blade isn't perfect. It's flawed, dying. Every swing might be its last. It exists in a state of constant change, constant decay. Your chains were built to resist eternal forces, but they never accounted for something that embraces its own ending. Kaira rose, energy flooding back into her form. 300 years of drainage reversed in heartbeats. She blazed with power, light pouring from her in waves. The fortress trembled. The Council will come for you. They will destroy you for this, probably. Cole checked a handheld device, frowning at the readings. Which is why we need to move. My ship's 3 levels up, but the temporal locks are engaging. We've got maybe 10 minutes before this whole place folds into stable time, and we're stuck here. We? You don't think I came all this way just to free you and leave you behind, do you? I've got a crew that's been waiting 6 years for me to get back. And we've got a war to fight. What war? The one that's been building while everyone was too busy maintaining their perfect systems to notice. The devouring dark you fought 3 centuries ago? It's back, bigger, hungrier. The Council thinks they can negotiate with it, find a diplomatic solution. Cole started toward the exit, pausing to look back. I think that's garbage. But I'm just a human. What do I know? Kaira followed, her stride growing stronger with each step. Why free me? If what you say is true, you need armies, fleets, the combined might of the Council races. I've got some of that. But armies fight the way they're trained to fight. They follow rules, tactics, established doctrine. The dark doesn't care about rules. It's chaos and hunger given form. Cole navigated through the twisting corridors with practiced ease. I needed someone who understands that sometimes you have to break everything to save anything. Someone who already sacrificed everything once and would do it again without hesitation. They emerged into a docking bay where a battered ship waited, its hull scarred by 1,000 battles. Crew members moved with efficient urgency, prepping for immediate departure. They barely glanced at the glowing entity following their captain, as if rescuing imprisoned demigods was routine. That's your vessel? Kaira asked. The Remembrance. Not much to look at, but she's taken me farther than any shiny new ship ever could. Cole climbed the ramp, gesturing for Kaira to follow. We've got a jump point ready. Soon as we're clear, we can start planning our next move. Kaira paused at the threshold. Freedom after 300 years felt surreal, like stepping from stone into air and not falling. What if I'm not who you think I am anymore? 3 centuries in chains changes even the strongest. Cold at her eyes. Then we'll figure it out together. That's what humans do. We're not the strongest, the smartest, or the longest lived. But we've gotten pretty good at taking broken things and finding new ways to make them work. The ship's engines hummed to life. Beyond the fortress walls, reality began to fracture as temporal locks engaged. They had seconds. Kaira stepped aboard. The remembrance launched, punching through dimensional barriers with reckless speed. Behind them, Valdrus folded back into its pocket of frozen time. Alarms would be screaming across the Council networks. Fleets would mobilize. The human coal would be branded an enemy of galactic order. But in the ship's observation deck, Kaira stood watching stars blur past, feeling power sink through her veins again. A rusted sword had accomplished what cosmic weapons could not. A mortal who measured their life in decades had freed an immortal who counted time in centuries. What's the plan? She asked. Cole appeared beside her, holding 2 cups of something steaming. First, we drink terrible coffee. Then, we go remind the universe that sometimes the most impossible thing of all is a person who refuses to accept that something can't be done. Kaira took the offered cup. The liquid tasted awful, burned and bitter. She smiled anyway. For the first time in 300 years, she had purpose again. And perhaps, she thought, as the remembrance jumped to faster-than-light speeds, the humans had something after all. Not